Hello, and welcome to your OPS 245 Week 3 lecture video. This week we're going to look at creating virtual machines. Now, you should already have some idea of what a virtual machine is, right? It's an emulation, or it's a computer in an emulated environment. It's not physical, right? We could use different virtualization software such as VMware Workstation, which we used in Lab 1. We could use VirtualBox. We could use any kind of hypervisor. We're not going to get into different types of hypervisors too much. Now, virtual machines have been around for a long time. They're not any new technology by any means. They've been around for like 2 decades or more. But they were created for all kinds of reasons. So you could have test environments to develop things or run things in, and that sort of evolved, right? We've got, we used to do server installations on physical hardware. So when you were connecting to a server on the internet, you were connecting to physical hardware. And then we figured, hey, let's virtualize all that. And in fact, we've been doing that for a long time. Last semester in ULI 101, for example, you connected to the Matrix cluster. And the Matrix cluster are all virtual machines. Every single node, every server in that environment is a virtual machine running on a low-level hypervisor. And we're transitioning to this place away from virtual machines and into the cloud, where you're going to learn about next semester. We're going to use AWS. And then the cloud, we spin up what we call instances, which are really just, they're like virtual machines, but they're in the cloud. And instead of a virtual machine, which takes you like half an hour or so, 20 minutes to half an hour to install, an instance in the cloud takes you like 2 minutes to deploy, and you're good to go. And the cool thing about the cloud is you can upload a pre-configured image of an instance or virtual machine and spin up 100 of them as you want, or 2 or 3 if you want, as many as you want. But we're not dealing with the cloud in this course. We're dealing with virtual machines. And I guess what I'm trying to get to here is that the stuff you're learning in this course is still relevant in a lot of ways. If you understand how a virtual machine works and how virtual networks work, you can apply that to the cloud. It's the same logic, it's the same mentality, it's the same idea. It's just implemented in a different way, right? So we've used virtual machines for all kinds of things. To build a virtual network, to simulate a real network and connecting different VMs of different types. Kind of what we're doing in this course, right? Which we'll touch on in a minute. We're not doing different VMs of different types, but we are simulating a small network. We could do this for penetration testing, which you're doing in your security courses, right? You're trying to hack virtual machines from other virtual machines. It also gives you a chance to either learn another US without having to reboot the system, or dual boot or something like that, or even use a different OS for a specific purpose without needing to dual boot. A good example of this on my computer at home. I have a Windows 10 virtual machine, which I should probably upgrade to a Windows 11 virtual machine at some point in the future, for those times when I absolutely must use Windows and I don't have Windows on a desktop in the house. We've got laptops with Windows on it, but my desktop and my wife's desktop are both running Linux Mint, as I've mentioned. So without having to dual boot, reboot into the other operating system, because there's processes running on there that we want access to all the time, I can just spin up my virtual machine and boom, good to go. So it's a handy thing. Now in this course, in fact in this week in Lab 2, we're going to create 3 new virtual machines inside the virtual machine that we created last week. There's that crazy nested virtualization thing that we're doing, that weird voodoo that I've mentioned. Sorry, paper was bugging me. Hopefully it didn't cause too much noise. So we're going to install 3 virtual machines: CentOS 1, CentOS 2, and CentOS 3 inside our C7 host. CentOS 1 is going to be pretty much straight up identical to what we did for CentOS for C7 host, for the host. That's going to be a GNOME desktop. CentOS 2 and CentOS 3 are going to be command line only because, let's face it, when you install servers, that's what you get. They're configured as command line only for a variety of reasons. So you should get comfortable working and interacting with Linux in that environment. But there are definitely some advantages to leveraging the command line in a graphical environment. So that's always a good thing that I've enjoyed that we do in this course. You're going to use the same install image, sort of, but we're going to do all 3 of these in slightly different ways. CentOS 1 and 2, you're going to install pretty much the same way we've done it before. You just have the ISO, you mount it, you install it, you're good to go. CentOS 3, we're going to do something really cool. We're going to use what's called a kickstart file, which completely automates the entire install process. You just have to set it up with the parameters, make sure you follow all the instructions appropriately in the lab, and you're good to go. There's a couple of steps that you have to do on the host, which we already did. I think we did in the first lab. If not, you're going to do it in this lab, and it makes things kind of difficult to move around. You need to go into that C7 host VM, and you need to prepare it for nested VMs. So we're going to have to go into the settings in the VM, and we're going to have to configure nested virtualization, which is well, just worthwhile doing here. It's the only way to make it work. You want to make sure your VM is updated before you do that, and then you're going to install KVM, which stands for Kernel Virtual Machine, if I recall correctly. And that's the virtualization software we're using in Linux. It's a lot like, trying to think of the Windows one offhand, and it's not coming to me. It's a low-level hypervisor. I want to say a layer 2 hypervisor. And it's free and open source because it's in Linux. And then we're going to have to start and enable that, so you're good to go. So all of this stuff we're doing inside a nested virtual machine. There's steps in the lab to do this. Follow them carefully, and there's a note about this. It's kind of a pain in the butt. When you're enabling this nested VM option in the kernel, you're doing it in that particular file, but you're doing it for a particular type of architecture. So it's for Intel only or AMD only, and it's slightly different parameters. If you are, well, you're going to be doing your VMs at the college, or your VMs, your instances, your labs at the college, because that's where our lab class is scheduled, right? The PCs in the college are Intel processors. So if you've got an AMD processor at home, that means you're pretty much straight up not going to be able to do your labs at home, which really sucks. This is the problem I have. My desktops at home are both, mine and my wife's desktops are AMD. And so I did my install here, which means I can't bring it to class and show you anything, which kind of sucks. But it doesn't really affect us this semester because, well, I'm at home recording these, so it's, I guess, less bad. So when you install KVM, just follow through the lab, make sure everything's up to date first, enable that nested virtualization, install all this stuff. It's a long list, and include the -y. You're going to notice a slash here in the lab too as well. There's a slash that will allow you to slash here. That will just split the command over multiple lines. It makes it a little more readable. And you need root access for this, right? Elevated privileges, so stick sudo in front. So sudo yum, I would include the -y in here, install, and then all this stuff. And then enable a virtualization service and restart. and you're good to go. Uh, and you're going to have to reboot here. Like, there's a note down here that you have to reboot anyway, but you have to reboot to enable the nested virtualization. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And you need sudo for this command here, the systemctl enable. So start systemctl starts the service, right? And enable makes it start automatically on boot. Hopefully that makes sense. This might be a quick lecture. We're going through it pretty quick. So KVM is the virtual machine manager. There's a GUI for it, so we'll show you how to launch it. It allows you to create, install, and manage your VMs. And you can get into it just from going Applications, System, Virtual Machine Manager, and it's going to prompt you for the root password because it needs root access right away. So make sure you have that written down somewhere. Then you're going to follow the instructions in the lab to create 3 VMs. All of them are a bit different. It's to show you different ways of doing these. So take your time, read the instructions carefully, follow them. This is probably one of the longest labs in the course, to be honest. And if you make a serious mistake, you might need to delete the VM and reinstall it. So you don't want to do that. If you have to do that, just force it off. Click on VM, shut down, force off. Then close the window. Click delete and make sure you check the box to delete the storage and create it again. Another important thing here, you're going to want to make sure you use the exact same username and password on all 3 VMs that you used on your C7 host. And that's not a great security policy, but you need to do that because the shell scripts that you're running to check your works won't run properly, and it could be a pain in the ass to fix that later. So just do that, and then you're fine. And then you're going to go on to some post-installation tasks. So you're going to do things like turn off the screensaver on CentOS 1 only. There's no screensaver on 2 and 3. You're going to want to use ping and traceroute to test your internet connectivity, update the system, switch FirewallD to IP tables, and set SE Linux to a permissive mode. And you totally could have scripted this, but there's benefit to making you do it, right? Now, let's actually kind of take a quick look at the labs, because that was like 12 minutes. This might be a quick video. Last semester when I ran through this was like a maybe 20, 30-minute lecture tops, and then it gave you more time to work on the lab. Can't really do that this semester, right? Because we're in this weird hybrid stuff. Oh look, I got it up here. Lab 2. So let's take a peek. What are we going to do? Make sure you download your ISOs first. On the host, update the system. There might be an error here. Follow the steps. Disable FirewallD. Oh, start libvirtd. Disable FirewallD. Install IP tables. Enable and start it. And you're going to have to reboot your system, I believe, after this. After you do the nested virtualization. Oh, we're doing that here. We're doing that here, and then you're going to reboot. So you can launch Virt Manager. You don't need sudo for this, right? Here's where we do the nested virtualization. So we're going to edit. So sudo vi boot EFI CentOS grub.cfg. Be very careful editing this file, because if you mess it up, you're reinstalling. So just be careful. Then we're going to install CentOS 1, graphical, and you can do a network install from that. So we don't need to download the ISO, and I think I told you had to download the ISO, but we're just doing a network install. If you do this from the Seneca lab, it's going to be a bit faster. It says it requires the VPN. CentOS 2 is going to be a network install, but minimal install, so command line only, whereas CentOS 1 is a full-fledged GUI. And then CentOS 3, we're doing a network install with a kickstart file. So that's going to automate the whole process for you. Make sure you add this extra option. And then we're gonna learn how to back them up manually. You're gonna careful with this next part. Once we do a backup, you're gonna intentionally mess up CentOS 3 and then restore it to show you how to restore it. Make sure you do this on CentOS 3. Do not do this somewhere else because this will seriously mess up your system. Then you can download the CentOS 4, which we're only going to use for this. It just shows you how to do a full restore of another VM. We're not using it for anything else in the course, but it's a useful thing. We've got some command line management of the VMs to find out different information. You can start and stop them from the command line. They're useful things. And then we get into Investigation 4, which we are not touching this week. So skip Investigation 4. We'll worry about Investigation 4 next week. So this week, Lab 2, Investigations 1, 2, and 3. That's what we're working on. Investigation 4, the Python stuff, we're going to do next week. And there'll be a Python video for that. So, I just sort of paused for a second and came back. Can't remember exactly what I said when I left off. But I wanted to show you what things would look like when you're done. So I've logged into my CentOS 7, which as you can see I switched the GUI back just for this session from Cinnamon. When you launch Virtual Machine Manager, it's right here, and we can actually, you can add that to the favorites, so it's just right there if you want. It's a useful thing. Launch it, type your password, and there you go. You're going to have 3 virtual machines in there. So this is KVM running inside my VMware Workstation host. And if you do want to switch it over to Cinnamon, which you totally could do, hold on, I'm going to log out and switch it back. You're going to learn how to do this in assignment 1, but we're going to do it on CentOS 3 or CentOS 1, I think it is. Let's switch it back to Cinnamon here. Or you could Google and find out how to do this. I do find Cinnamon, not only does it look a lot cleaner, it's nicer, I like it. It usually loads a lot faster and runs a lot smoother. And now that I've said that, look what it's not doing, right? It's not happy that I disabled and re-enabled it. Something just happened. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's fine. I don't know what, but yeah, it's usually, see, a lot more responsive. I don't know why it did that. So, that's what it looks like in Cinnamon, pretty much same, right? It's just this part's different, right? That's it for your week 2 lecture video. Do the first 3 parts. Don't do the Python. We're going to do the Python next week. Take care. Be safe. Have a great week. And I will see you on Tuesday. I hope you're having a very wonderful long weekend. Take care. Bye for now.